All right, we're back with Kirk Lapointe. His microphone is working. You hear the question last time. Apologies for that. That's technology for you. So, Kirk, we missed your answer there. I was quite curious to hear it about how the transition from journalist to politician. It sounds like it was at times fun, at times a bit anxious.
Yeah, I mean, actually, when the battery went out of my microphone, David, it was kind of metaphoric. It was a little bit like that last week. You know, they were really long days. It wasn't always pleasant being on the other side of the microphone, but I got used to it. And I thought, you know, the community was very open to change, and they gave me a real shot at doing that. But from a standing start, I was really up against a fairly big machine with a lot of time on its hands over the years to build that message and brand. And you know, we ran, I thought, a very solid campaign. We got 11 people elected, up from 5 last time, and you know, I ended up with 73,000 plus votes, which you know, it was astounding to even me. So there we are.
One of the things, and I've just tweeted out the link to the essay you have at McLean's site about your reflections on this race, and you talk about how the NPA was sort of like an alumni reunion every couple of years, getting together.
Yeah.
And it seemed to me to say a lot about the comment on what we now call the permanent campaign, whether it's municipally in Vancouver, provincially or federally. Political parties are so sophisticated now that they're just all in this mode all the time.
Yeah, and I think the message that we got pretty loudly and clearly through this is that we're going to have to be able to do that if, as an NPA, as a nonpartisan association, that you can't really just do this quaint thing every few years where you get together and put a slate together and raise some money and get on your way. I mean, what we were up against was a really well-financed organization that operates year-round and cycle-round. And I think if we're going to be competitive, we're going to have to do that and figure that out. And no matter what part I play in it, I'm hopeful that that message got through.
I was, during the coverage, I was trying to reflect on the conversations that you and I might have had in the newsrooms we've worked in about politics, as I was trying to say, you know, is Kirk left, right, up, down? You know, I wasn't quite sure, but your opponent was branding you as some right-wing, whatever, Harper mastermind, I think they were using. What did you think of that to one day wake up and find, in the newspapers anyways, that you were a Harper neophyte, apparently?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have liked the person they concocted. I mean, I wasn't that person at all. You know, to govern effectively in a city like Vancouver, you have to have a bit of a smorgasbord of policy, and you have to borrow from the right, left, and certainly the middle. And you have to be conscientious of the fact that we're in an environmentally beautiful city. We've got a real income disparity here. We've got homelessness situations here. We've got affordable housing situations here. And all of those things require kind of a more social application of your approach. But it also requires, I think, better fiscal management and openness and consultation. And those were all precepts, I thought, that were actually more to the center left. But you know, I can understand why they tried to brand me that way, because their base is a left of center brand, and they can't afford to have anybody seem to be, you know, insinuating themselves into it. So they tried to put me out there, you know, as kind of like this troglodyte, you know, knuckle dragging antediluvian guy. And you know, I think many of my policies were actually far more progressive than theirs, but they were relatively successful at branding me in that particular way, and we were not all that effective, I think, in repelling that.
Well, particularly in the timing when they started to do that, late in the campaign, when they knew it was going to be close and they had to get their base motivated to get out and vote, that seemed to be it. Let me ask you, now that you've sort of been through that campaign where we've been talking about pipeline politics for most of the show, and that was an issue to a degree, the Kinder Morgan plan and Robertson's opposition to the expansion of it. Let me ask you, as a guy sitting here in Ottawa to a guy in Vancouver who's just been doing politics, is pipeline politics a big deal for folks Vancouver to Burnaby to Port Moody?
Well, they are, David, but I mean, respectfully to the people of Vancouver, they need to understand that the mayor of Vancouver can't do anything about the Kinder Morgan pipeline process except go to the National Energy Board, argue the case, but really in the end, it's really the city of Burnaby, it's the National Energy Board, it's the federal government, it's Kinder Morgan itself, it's perhaps First Nations. They will have some influence over this project, but the mayor of Vancouver has no impact on it. Otherwise, he would have done something about the oil tankers in the harbor. He'd be doing something about other types of things. I mean, in a lot of ways, I thought that was one of the most disrespectful things about this campaign, was the mayor and his supporters and his party trying to convince Vancouverites that actually they were going to be able to do something about this. And I think there are going to be a lot of disappointed voters who in a year or 2 or 3 time are going to say, well, this project is proceeding and the mayor of Vancouver is against it. Why isn't the mayor able to stop it? It's because he doesn't have jurisdiction over it. And for those that didn't understand their jurisdictional issues, he was very effective at portraying somehow this superhero who could stop something like this. And whether you like the pipeline or not, you have to sit back and say there's something about which I can do things and there's some things I can't do anything about. And in this case here, I think he didn't level with people and say, I can only argue this case. I can't actually stop it.
I've only got about 30 seconds, but let me ask you about whether it'll be more journalism, it'll be informed by this experience, or maybe one day on a ballot somewhere again.
Well, never say never, David, but for now I want to get my metabolism back in order, sleep, eat, and perhaps exercise a bit better and work at a job that I get paid to work at. And I do intend to do some writing. I want to make sure that I keep myself blogging and those kinds of things. I think I still have some things to contribute to the city life. But ultimately, another election is 4 years away, and that's an awful long time.
Kirk Lapointe joining us from Vancouver. Kirk, great to chat with you, and let's do it again.
Thanks.